This is 7 News, the voice of the Central West.
Tonight, the National Party responds to allegations made by a former member.
Our region's mayors plan how the promised flood recovery funding should be spent.
I'm Daniel Gibson. Later on this news hour, Brittany Higgins breaks down on the stand the explosive claims in the Liraman defamation case and the Aussie hero that's behind India's miraculous mine rescue.
7 News begins now.
Good evening. Tonight, there are calls from within the National Party for the resignation of a senior official, the chair of Clare's Federal Electorate Council, Janelle Culverson.
It comes after a bitter feud between Andrew Gee and his former party enters new territory.
This is nasty, vicious and spiteful politics. I believe that our communities would be horrified, like I am, that the National Party has sunk to this filthy new low.
Under parliamentary privilege, the member for Calare sensationally accused Ms Culverson of sending a suspicious parcel to his home.
The package contained empty wine bottles bearing labels carrying an insulting message.
The National Party State Director telling 7 News, regardless of the motivation, be it out of frustration with Mr Gee's actions or otherwise, anonymously posting ambiguous material to a Member of Parliament's home is not an acceptable behaviour for an office bearer of the party. Joe Lundy adding he has written to Ms Culverson requesting she resign her position as chair. The party's federal leader, David Littleproud, is aware of the allegation, telling 7 News the State Director is acting on the issue and has clearly stated that the Nationals view the behaviour as unacceptable.
A puff of wind, isn't it, really? I mean, someone sends you 3 empty bottles of wine, I'd be cheesed off that the wine wasn't full. I mean, that's what it is, irrespective of what the label said.
Kevin Duffy is a former colleague of Ms Culverson during her time on Cabonne Shire Council, and he is a current Orange City Councillor.
How would you feel receiving an obscure package at your home from an anonymous address?
Well, I've received them before and I've just taken them to the police and no further action at this stage has happened.
We have asked Andrew Gee what the insulting message was. He did not respond to our inquiries.
Yeah, well, I have heard, and I do believe there's a local wine producer who has a brand out called Idiot, and I think that was someone mentioned to me earlier this morning that was what was written.
We've attempted to speak with Janelle Culverson multiple times today, but have not heard back. The National Party has also been unable to confirm whether they have received Miss Culverson's resignation. Ruben Spargo, 7 News.
Mayors from across the Central West's flood-affected shires have come together this week, looking at how to allocate the $100 million recovery fund pledged by the state and federal governments. Their focus is on rebuilding more robust infrastructure that won't need future repairs when the next flood hits.
We've got a couple of areas on the Condo Road, 21 Mile and 17 Mile, and with just a little bit of extra money to be able to make that better, we will not have the isolation that we had in the last floods.
The Forbes, Cabonne, Parkes and Lachlan Shires will reconvene for further talks before Christmas.
A Supreme Court jury has heard messages plotting the alleged murder of a rival bikie boss near Wellington. 5 men are accused of orchestrating the crime, which killed senior Bandidos motorcycle gang figure Shane DeBritt.
They're the group of men standing trial over the alleged murder of Bandidos outlaw motorcycle gang president Shane DeBritt, who in January 2020 was shot in the head while he lay in bed inside his remote farmhouse south of Wellington. A brutal murder, the Crown argues, was part of a hatched plan to seek revenge after allegations members of the Grudge Bringers Motorbike Club were beaten up by DeBritt's gang. More than a month into the Supreme Court trial and in their closing arguments, the Crown prosecutor told the jury just days before the alleged killing, Facebook messages were exchanged by the 5 accused men. From start taking the Bandidos on, we fight, we win, to take all. Another says, let them try and take my cut. I will take their life. No Bandido will be left standing. From when detectives first arrived at DeBritt's home to the properties where arrests were made, police conducted a large-scale search, bringing in divers to dredge dams and search inside water tanks, Sniffer dogs also hunting for evidence, pushing over each blade of grass, looking for the firearm which was allegedly used in the fatal killing. The Crown prosecutor submitting the firearm had been cut up into pieces, with only some parts being recovered. All 5 men have pleaded not guilty to murder after allegedly orchestrating the crime, with the jury now expected to hear from the defence's closing arguments. Hamish Southwell, 7 News.
With one congested and another prone to flooding, Cowra Council is calling for an additional bridge over the Lachlan River. But with Transport for New South Wales putting up a roadblock, the town's mayor is pushing to get the idea reconsidered.
A second bridge, something Cowra's residents have been asking for years. But with congestion getting worse and recent flooding events, the calls are more urgent than ever.
We've got a low-level bridge. We're going to retain that and have that for pedestrians and bikes and people. But we really do need a mid-level crossing, which will go north to south.
It's an issue because people coming into town find all those intersections difficult, especially the ones before the bridge and after the bridge.
You get it very busy and it's blocked right at the back for 2 or 3 miles.
And the trouble with the low level, when the river's up, can't use it. And when you go over it, you've got to watch for bolts sticking up because quite often bolts will come up.
But funding for the project remains the roadblock.
We've done all the studies, we've done the reports, we've sent it off to Transport for New South Wales and asked them to consider that and put it in their project plans. And they've come back with us and said, just build another bridge at your cost. You know, we just cannot afford this. This is ridiculous.
But with a bypass not a currently viable option, this second bridge may be the only solution to the rising congestion.
The trucks coming through the main street certainly disrupt traffic, and it is a little bit dangerous, I'm thinking.
And the second bridge will get rid of, I reckon, about 1/3 of going over the current Lachlan Bridge where the low level is. But if they get a new bridge, it'll be a benefit for the town.
Cowra Mayor Ruth Fagan is continuing discussions with Transport Minister Jenny Aitchison, hoping the idea will gain traction. Charlotte Wallen, 7 News.
Accessing contraception will now be easier than ever before. Women aged 18 to 35 who have been prescribed the pill in the last 2 years can now renew their scripts over the counter at the pharmacy. Under the New South Wales government plan, resupplies will also be issued for free. Priceline pharmacy owner Amanda Ward says not only will the new program free up GP waiting rooms, it'll also help women stay up to date with their contraception.
Rather than waiting 6 weeks and having a lapse in treatment, they can walk into the pharmacies where the pharmacists have done the adequate training and then get that resupply for up to 12 months before they have to see their doctor again.
There are now 1,000 pharmacies across New South Wales participating in the program.
Hit and miss storms have lashed parts of the region, some receiving nearly 100 millimetres of rain, others almost missing out altogether. The run of wet weather coming at a time when many are looking at the prospect of drought.
A cheer celebrating a drop of rain in drought-affected country. The downfall pummelling onto roofs in Nyngan overnight. Further west, this was outside of Cobar, where some properties recorded around 63 millimetres of rain. The water running over parched and thirsty ground. The storm activity captured by many locals who snapped pictures of lightning strikes around the outback town. The wall of dense clouds also in sharp focus outside of Tottenham. Further south, and the sun was shining over Forbes today, drivers honing their wet weather skills.
Over the night, I had 95 mils of rain at my place, which is only just up a couple of doors up the road. I'm looking around this morning. It's put a lot of water into the lake system.
With wind also playing its part, the SES have told me they only had a handful of call-outs for assistance across the region overnight. Those along the river, no doubt relieved. Levels are steady after the initial warnings.
After this run of stormy conditions we've had for over a week now, next week is looking to be relatively drier and calmer across the majority of Australia.
But for those across the region, this was a welcome run of rain for communities heavily drought affected. Hamish Southwell, 7 News.
And staying on the weather, Kirsty joins us now with a closer look at today's weather. And Kirsty, as we heard, some really heavy falls for parts of our region.
That's right, Maddie and Nick. Good evening to you. We have certainly seen some plenty wet weather fall across the central west. Cowra recorded 55 millimetres of rain. That's an entire month's worth of rain in just over 12 hours. That wet weather ramping up from about 10 p.m. last night. 35 millimetres in Mudgee and Gulgong to 9 o'clock this morning. But the rain and storms did pick up again during today, with the storm activity developing about midday. That wet weather has also remained persistent. We have had severe storm warnings covering the central tablelands as well as parts of the eastern slopes and plains. Another 3 millimetres has been recorded in Condobolin since 9 o'clock this morning. Grey skies about 2 with some very strong winds. Temperatures 28 for Nyngan, Trangie, Dubbo and Gilgandra. We are expecting a bit of easing of conditions overnight, but storms are possible for our final day of spring again tomorrow. I'll have that forecast shortly.
Final day of spring, where does it go?
I know, almost summer.
Thanks, Kirsty. We'll see you soon.
Still to come in 7 News, Molong is getting ready to celebrate the unveiling of a new community centre.
And the Indigenous community takes action to break the cycle of gender-based violence.
And a little later on this news hour, an apology to the victims of thalidomide, more than half a century after the drug devastated families. Brittany Higgins takes the stand, giving evidence at Bruce Lehrmann's defamation trial. And the Aussie who played a critical role in the rescue of 41 miners.
Welcome back. Molong's brand new Cabonne Community Centre is set to open its doors to the public this Friday. With construction starting over 2 years ago, the building has been eagerly awaited.
It brings our community together. It's a meeting place, and especially for the library. As we know, the library has been at the old railway station in cramped quarters, went under water in the floods.
As well as the library, the centre will have hall facilities for public meetings and functions. The building's unveiling will coincide with Molong's Christmas shopping night.
An organisation in Forbes is placing domestic violence in Aboriginal communities under the microscope. In a forum today, they've invited Indigenous groups from right across the Central West to put their heads together and help curb the cycle of violence.
While Indigenous Australians make up just over 3% of the country's population, they account for 30% of hospitalisations due to domestic violence, a statistic the Urana Gunya Family Healing Centre Aboriginal Corporation in Forbes wants to halt.
I come from 3 generations of family sexual domestic violence. I'm a circuit breaker, very much, but I'm really here to spread the message that it's not us, that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities aren't the problem.
Survivor and advocate Amanda Morgan was one of the speakers sharing their story at the event, which coincides with the UN's 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. She says the system isn't serving these communities, a message shared amongst the groups in attendance.
With our Aboriginal communities, we don't get the services that are so vitally needed, where with other communities they do.
It's about not expecting people to just walk straight out of prison back onto the street. Like, we need to have programs that teach people how to take care of themselves, emotional intelligence.
Today's event allowing people to connect and try to find a way to break the cycle of gender-based violence.
Forbes and rural areas miss out on a lot of forums, so this is a first for our community. We've got people coming, women from Condobolin, Lake Cargelligo and just surrounding organisations. I know there's people here from Canberra and Wagga.
Urana Gunya will be holding a second forum in Forbes tomorrow for those working in the Indigenous domestic violence space. Charlotte Wallen, 7 News.
Still to come in 7 News, we can tell you who has been crowned the 8-day Games King and Queen of Sport.
And things heat up for motorsports fans at Mount Panorama during the Challenge Bathurst Hot Laps.
Tomorrow on Sunrise, the Aussie suburbs bucking the rental increases. The most affordable houses leasing for less than $500 a week.
Plus, the Beverly Hills Cop is back. Eddie Murphy's big new surprise, 30 years in the making.
See you in the morning.
Welcome back. Mountain bike riders from up and down the East Coast have taken to the trails in Roddle. They battled wet conditions at the Rocky Trail 24-hour jet black race.
3, 2, 1, keep it going! Let the race begin.
300 competitors taking off into the forest for their first of many laps across an entire day of racing. The 24-hour Jet Black event saw riders compete individually and in teams.
I definitely want to try and complete this one, do more, work on the fitness, see how far I can go.
To do that, riders need to not only look after themselves, but their bikes too.
When you race that long, you got to be fueled, you got to be hydrated, get your electrolytes in, eat a lot. That's the one side, that's the personal side. When it comes to the bike, same thing. You got to make sure that the bike performs as well as you want it to.
For individual riders, that's a lot harder, having to take food and fuel out on the trails with them. Those riding in teams had the luxury of doing a few laps, then servicing their bike while on break.
There's some tough guys out here actually doing a 24-hour solo. Those guys will have it in for a bit of a hard day, but we're in a team of 4, so you can choose to kind of split it up as much or as less as you want.
Putting in the preparation for a race like this is key. If you don't, you could be in for a world of hurt.
The hardest part with the 24 hours is the training. So it's the months leading up to the 24 hour. Once actually in the race, it might sound hard, but the training's harder.
Mac Reith-Snare, 7 News.
Orange's annual 8-day games have come to a thrilling end with the crowning of the competition's king and queen. 20-year games veteran Jono Punch is proof that no matter how experienced you are, the 8-day games are brutal. Jackson Leckie was crowned this year's king, winning the title for a second year in a row. Sophie Fardell took out the Queen honours. Forbes Rugby Club has hosted the annual Springvale Cup, welcoming teams from all over New South Wales and the ACT. The overall Springvale Cup was taken out by the hometown team Forbes. Parks won the Open Division, while Bathurst Old Boys and Southern Rough Riders were named joint winners of the Golden Oldies Division. The roar of racing cars at Mount Panorama is wrapping up with the track's last event for 2023. The final days of the Challenge Bathurst have been highlighted with 2 days of fast-track V8 experience.
It's always safety first up and down pit lane, especially when you're getting behind the wheel of a supercar for the first time. Krista Lunger travelled across the ditch from New Zealand to live out a childhood dream of driving a V8 at Bathurst.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. Had such a great time. It was actually a birthday gift from my partner. He did it about a year ago, and I highly recommend it.
Krista's fast-track V8 experience didn't end there. The Kiwi also jumped in the passenger seat for a hot lap.
What section of the track are you most looking forward to?
Oh, look, the Big Dipper, I guess. But hey, look, it's all really good.
After 2 laps at race speed, Krista's mind was blown.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. I must admit he went a lot faster than me when I went through it this morning. But no, great, great, adrenaline.
If you're lucky, you could end up in a car with motorsport legend John Bowe.
I love the people that come and experience it. It's for me, it's showing them what I've been doing all my life, you know. So, and on this track, this track's the holy grail.
Challenge Bathurst has seen a range of cars and categories take on the mountain. The action wraps up tomorrow. Mac Reith-Snare, 7 News.
And while Challenge Bathurst is Mount Panorama's last event for 2023, fans are already gearing up to visit the mountain in 2024. Tickets are now on sale for almost 3,000 campsites at next year's Bathurst 500. Round 1 of the Supercars Championship will combine with the Bathurst 12-hour for the Bathurst Superfest, comprising 10 days of motorsport action. Up next in 7 News, Kirsty's back and she's got an in-depth look at what's happening with your weather. That's coming up next.
Good evening once again. Wet weather has certainly lashed much of the state today with some significant rain and thunderstorms through the southeast. We saw those severe storms contracting to the eastern half of New South Wales today. Conditions should ease through tomorrow and Friday as these systems move offshore, but a new trough will bring some scattered rainfall through for the end of spring and the chance of thunderstorm outbreaks as well. Similar conditions through the weekend. We're not expecting drier skies until early next week. Most of our regions, heavy rainfall has already fallen, but we do have the risk of storms still on the forecast, which could drop some localised heavy rainfall. Showers are still possible through until early next week. Taking a look now through to our Thursday weather forecast, drier skies in the west, partly cloudy conditions around Dubbo and for Gilgandra and Nyngan. There is a chance of those storms across the tablelands tomorrow, and we could see between about 3 and 8 millimetres of rain. We are also expecting skies to be more overcast across the east as temperatures sit around the high teens to the mid-20s between Orange and towards Cowra and Parkes. Similar weather for the start of summer on Friday, that chance of a shower or two with a westerly breeze, but dropping to no more than about a millimetre or two of rain, and that's most likely during the evening. Despite that, the day is looking partly cloudy, some windy weather at times. Bathurst a top of 26, remaining very mild overnight as that cloud traps in more of the day's warmth. Mudgee a maximum of 27 degrees. And similar weather through our weekend, a partly cloudy start to the day with a medium chance of showers developing across the region. Nyngan and Coonamble warm though, back to the 30s. There's only about a 50% chance of just a millimetre of rain. Some gusty winds about in the morning. We could see wind gusts of more than 35 kilometres an hour, and storms could break out later in the day. If they do, once again, they're most likely towards the east. Bathurst a top of 24 degrees, Cowra reaching 26, the low 20s in Lithgow, and 25 on the way for Young. If we take a look through now to the next 7 days, we are expecting to see much more summer-like conditions on the horizon through early next week. Temperatures heating up and our skies also drying out. We will continue to face this typical spring storm weather through the end of this season tomorrow, with some showers, particularly in the east, drying up though as we track into the start of summer on Friday.
Yeah, it sure has been wet out there.
Yes.
Thanks, Kirsty.
And that's your local news for tonight. Thanks for your company. You can catch up on our website or, of course, at 7plus.
Right now, Dan's got your national news. Enjoy your night. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 o'clock.